This is 180 milliseconds too late, the SSA Rocket League podcast, and we have to, of course, talk about Regional 2 of the winter split and all its chaos, adventure, and misadventure, and the ups and downs of it. And I have with me Altruism and Muzz. Hello, boys.
Greetings.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Well, don't sound too excited, chaps.
No. We've got a lot to talk about, man. Like this regional threw everything into the woodwork. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of things got shaken up this last weekend. We had some interesting events take place. All people, places, things, all the goodness that we're going to dig our teeth into.
Well, doesn't it feel like after the fall split, it felt like the order of South African Rocket League was very well established. Then Regional 1 with Bravado winning, it was like, oh, what's going on here? And then this one, and we're going to talk about Pirates, of course, coming back, but ATK, so many things happened where it feels like we're not entirely sure of what the order of South African Rocket League is.
Yeah, I can't actually wait to see this because, we've referred to a lot of these sort of chasms in the league. The top teams, who's the best 2, who's the best 3, then 4, then 5, and it's getting crowded at the top. It's going to be interesting to see how the teams actually spread themselves out. A lot of up-and-coming teams. And, Muzz, who's your favorite for the season so far?
That's it's difficult to say there, guys, because it's been such a mixed bag. Like you said, it's really since the fall split, as Ryan mentioned, has been up and down. We kind of looking at Royalty Esports saying these guys are doing so incredibly well. We're looking at our French Reunion Island team, PWB, who very consistently finished 6th again. So they've got that 6th to 5th spot after regional number 1. It's definitely tough to say. I think there are a couple favorites and dark horses that are coming through that we can all kind of start to get behind. It's not just your typical kind of Bravado, ATK, and XD anymore. There's a couple of other guys coming through that are making it really fun to watch the regionals.
All right, well, let's start at the end. Pirates XD, they stormed back into the winning position, finishing they are the Regional 2 champions. And they had a relatively good run all the way through, coming through the qualifiers very strong, 4-1 against DNMK, which is a bit of a change. Normally they would 4-0 them, but it was 4-1 there. And then ATK taking 2 games off them in the upper bracket, and then 2 games off them in the grand final. So your thoughts on Pirates XD? Let's start with you, Alt.
When I look at this, we've got to ask who's actually challenging them. The fact that DNMK picked up 1 game, I can give 1 game in a best of 5 or best of 7 series. It's a case of, we let our concentration slip, and Orlando Pirates is pretty known for that. Losing 2 games to ATK twice is actually not bad. ATK has stepped it up. They beat out Bravado, which we're going to chat about in a second. But the fact that Orlando Pirates didn't really look threatened at any stage. This was not a reverse sweep. This was not going to 2 brackets in the grand finals or anything like that. They did a clinical 4-2 in the upper bracket finals, then 4-2 in the grand finals, took home their prize money and said thank you. So still quite a big difference between Orlando Pirates and the other teams, and it's nice to see them back on form.
Yeah, and the interview with Snowy afterward, after the win was very interesting for me. He complained that he was a little frustrated that they were giving up games and didn't feel they were playing 100% to what they should be doing. And if they can get it right, Muzz, that's a terrifying thought. If there's a few gears above where that they feel they can get to above where they are.
Oh yeah, 100%, right? They kind of, if they still have a whole other 6th gear to change up into, and they can play even better than what we saw, then kudos to them. But it's also a testament to all the other teams that are grinding and doing incredibly well to kind of get up to this point. Again, you look at Royalty Esports, you look at the consistency of ATK. That was their 3rd grand final, right, in 5 regionals. So ATK have actually slowly been racking up points without us really noticing, because we kind of are not, putting them into the Bravado to die for League XD, big reverse sweeps like Royalty Esports. They've just very slowly kind of accumulated points, consistently made top 3 the whole entire time. And when we look at kind of those 2 wild cards later on, and most people might say XD Bravado, that has to be the 2 wild cards. I almost want to say, hey, ATK might just be the guys that are going to pick up 2nd place by the time we look at a spring split.
All right, well, Yeah, go ahead, Alt.
Before you carry on, you use the word terrifying. It's terrifying to see if Pirates does have that next level that they can step it up to. The other interesting point about what Snowy was saying is why that they're feeling that they're not at the level they want to be is because they're already setting their sights on that wild card slot. They know that they're going to get there. They've got the current point standings by a decent margin. They've been winning 4 out of the 5 regionals so far. They've got their sights set on the end, and they know how much work it's going to take to get up to the level of the wild card qualifiers when we start hitting international teams. And you use the word terrifying, but I find it like really exciting because, like Muzz says, these guys are dragging behind the other teams in their growth. They're dragging behind the Bravados and the 80K. They're giving them a target to aim at. And then you've got DNMK, Apex, Royalty, all these other guys, PWB, trying to now play up, and their benchmark is, can we win a regional? Means that they're good. So like every time Orlando Pirates steps it up, everyone else is going to have to step it up as well. So it's great for the growth of the region, at least.
It speaks to a very good point. And another point Snowy did raise is that our struggle is how do we get ourselves up to international level with our player base? But it's this sort of thing that helps, isn't it? Pirate steps it up. So Bravado, ATK, DNMK, Royalty, all of these guys have to be better. They have to grind harder. And then it's sort of a bit of a sort of vacuum effect. It starts to suck everybody up from the bottom.
It is. And the big thing is Orlando Pirates are struggling because they don't have anyone above them to play against and to scrim against. And Snow was talking about maybe trying to do a boot camp or something like that before the wild cards. And I 100% agree with that. But for everyone else, there's always someone above you. Like, always. And the fact that Bravado has taken it once against Orlando Pirates is a testament to the other teams fighting for that top position. But for now, they can at least train. They can at least get better. They can test their skills constantly against someone at least. Which Orlando Pirates is kind of lacking right now, unfortunately, until they start hitting those international teams.
All right, well, so that's Pirates, back for now at least. But the great thing is we go into the third regional, and Pirates will be favorites as they always are, but not dead certainties as they always are. But speaking of that, Bravado taking down Pirates in Regional 1, and they struggled this region. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on what was going on there. Was it sort of now the weight of expectation, having performed like they did in the first regional? Was it? I don't know. What do you make of it?
I mean, I'm wondering kind of, when do these teams peak and when do the players peak, right? So, the first 3 regionals, we saw Bravado consistently hitting that kind of top 4, top 3, but not making it. And we're still bragging about To Die For at that point. Then we get to regional, at least number 2 of the winter split, or number 1 of the winter split, and they win the whole thing. And they actually beat XD twice in that upper final and the grand final as well. And I just think kind of all the teams are quite possibly separately peaking at their own times and just kind of, getting through runs at decent times when they need to, depending on who the groups were or the Swiss stages were and how they play. And I think just there could be fatigue. There can be peaking and then fatigue. We kind of look at DNMK as well, and maybe why do they never kind of break a top 3? Are they always tired? Whatever the case might be. And I just think, it's like your typical sports as well. The teams and the players, I think, are just kind of hitting their perfect strides at certain regionals. Then you have long 2-3 week breaks that can totally kill momentum, and then you don't have the best run again. And I'm sure there's a multitude of factors as to why kind of teams, hit their stride and then don't hit their stride at certain times.
Well, I think Happy Meal actually alluded to it, though. If you remember his interview, he talked about how when it came to Orlando Pirates in the finals, they just started to play their own game. They've constantly been trying to match and better and react to what all the Orlando Pirates are doing, and they just try their own game. And maybe that's them now trying to play a different style from that last regional. I don't know if something has clicked in their brains and they've now adapted to a new style. I don't know if it was just they've gone back to the old way that didn't actually win them the game against Orlando Pirates, that maybe that's been lost. I don't know yet. Like, we've seen them once, and we didn't even get to see Bravado play against Orlando Pirates. So we actually have no direct judge between them. But ATK is that pin that goes between the two of them.
Well, we're certainly going to talk about ATK in a second. But yeah, and so maybe it was a combination of things. Maybe it was just a bad weekend, but it was heavy weather going to game fives in all of their group stages and then going down to ATK in a best of seven. But then had a bit of a resurgence, 4-0ing PWB and then 4-0ing Royalty Esport and then a 6-gamer against ATK. So an up and down. So we'll have to wait, I think, for Regional 3 and to kind of see where they've settled. But that does bring us to ATK, which for me, by far, the most improved team from one regional to the next. I was really impressed with how they played this regional.
Buzz, you take this one.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to what I was saying earlier, just their consistency, right? They've been kind of just plugging away behind the scenes, the whole entire time. Skulk G, Archeon, and Werty, right? They've just absolutely been grinding. They've been working. They definitely didn't do well during Regional 1 at all. Fell down to the big reverse sweep there from Royalty Esports as a lower bracket quarterfinal, right? Which is not where we've seen them place basically the whole entire time. And then they get to Regional number 2, which I think there was only a 2-week difference there. So they could reset, they could maybe practice a bit. Maybe they even told the guys, let's rest a little bit, kind of let's take weekends off. Let's see if we can just recuperate. They go straight through to a grand final against XD. And like you guys mentioned, we're able to take 4 games off of them in 2 series. So, just again, I think they are very consistent and they're showing how consistent they are. They're always making the top 4. They're always raking in the very important kind of plus 150, 200 points towards that leaderboard. And yeah, like you said, Ryan, definitely the most improved team because, they did so superbly well.
And then Alt, I don't know if you have any thoughts on any particular player, but Archeon for me stood out just in terms of his improvement because he seemed like he might have been a bit of a weak point in the team, but I think he played exceptionally well and contributed so much to the team's success over the weekend.
I 100% agree with you. As the amazing progress that he's managed to make as a player, I kind of think back to where he was when we still had LAN events. I picture Archeon kind of sitting almost in no man's land where he's pushed up a lot, that he's in the play and in pressure, but the ball tends to chip past him or something like that. If he can get a touch on it, he can send a decent shot towards the goal. I found he's now pulled back a lot. He's waiting a lot more. He's kind of more predatory or something. Predatory? There's the word. The fact that he sits and waits, and now he's developed his mechanical skill to be able to hit some amazing shots. So whenever that ball pops out, whenever the ball just like that's not a perfect touch by the defender, Archeon's waiting, and he's now starting to hit stupidly high balls down at good angles. He's being able to read things off from side angles really well, get some double touches. And when you got, to die for in the front lines, sorry, not to die for, but someone like Werty in the front lines, you've got someone to kind of create the first chaos in the defensive line. And if you just sit back and wait for your opportunity, which is what he's doing, it makes him a great player. And I love this new strategy of his.
Yeah, and it's gelling incredibly well with the team. And so, yeah, so because in my mind, they seem to fall away a little bit that last regional, but here they were fabulous. And then, so now we come to sort of the cluttered area. ATK are third on the label, but coming up right behind, not so much in the points because Royalty were kind of late in the game and they're a new roster, but DNMK, Royalty, has Royalty overtaken DNMK DNMK is still ahead in the points, obviously, but Royalty's causing a bit of consternation there.
Yeah.
Royalty's only here for 2 seasons. That's the big thing. DNMK's been here since the beginning. So when they're this close in points already.
Yeah, that it is. It's worrying. I agree there with Michael. It's kind of, Royalty Esports are already 6th, 690 points, and you're so close to DNMK, and DNMK played the whole way through. And, is it going to be a flash in the pan? We'll have to see if that's the case. We have regional number 3 plus a spring split coming up. It's just, for me, DNMK are always making that top 5 and top 4, but they are very much struggling to get any further than that. And I'm not sure what they need to hit the switch to just pop into that top 3. Kind of, the bridesmaid and never the bride, but They just need to somehow be able to turn something over that's going to get them into the top three. Because right now, kind of they are not getting there. And Royalty Esports are very much quickly climbing up that leaderboard. And, you can imagine in one or two more regionals, they're almost going to surpass them.
And I don't know if either of you have done the maths on this, but at what point do Orlando Pirates clinch that the wild card slot? I don't know how many points they need, and that's something worth looking into. But obviously with one more split, well, there's 4 regionals left, but I'm sure sometime in the next 1 or 2 they can clinch it if they win from here.
I was doing the quick maths actually beforehand on this thing, and I'm no Jodo or Atch, but I was figuring out we just had the halfway. This last weekend was the halfway point for this entire qualifiers for the wild card.
Yes.
Bravado's already taken 4 out of the 5, and they came second in the other one. So, they basically almost got maximum points for half the season.
Yeah.
Bravado and ATK have shared the rest of it. So, no one's got consistently second, first, second. That was actually right. Yeah. There's no one who can really challenge them. So even if, say, Bravado win every single one, as long as Orlando Pirates still placed second at least,
yes,
I think that they would have already secured it. Okay. I know that there's a couple of very fringe situations that it might still be, but as far as they go, if they just don't drop out of top 3, I think they've pretty much secured it already.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, fine. So then our outer regions, and by outer regions, of course, we mean not South African teams. Only one representative in this last regional, PWB, in their second regional. OFA not making it through. But we do want to create a bit of vibe. And Muzz, I know you found a couple of Kenyans who are dead keen, but we do have a bit of a problem in that currently Kenyan teams are excluded from the SSA regionals due to some legal issue with Psionics. But that remains for the growth of the region. That remains a critically important issue. How do we've got to still get this game outside of South Africa.
Yeah, of course, right? We represent a whole region here called Sub-Saharan Africa, right? And so, all of these teams are eligible to play. Well, depending on what Sonic says. So that kind of for me is a bit of a bummer. And I know we were discussing it privately because, I had kind of guys reach out to me privately, and I immediately asked them like, "Hey, do you know Kenyan Rocket League players? Like, why aren't they joining in the RLCS?" And then when you told me kind of there seems to be a few hiccups around that, it makes you kind of very bleak and despondent because why? You're trying to work so hard for a region when kind of the powers that be just, don't almost want to see your success.
I think a big part of this is that don't they fall under the MENA region, the Middle East North Africa region?
No, they would fall under SSA, but they're literally excluded at the moment for some or other legal issue which I don't fully understand.
Oh man, I hope we can get that cleared out. I think the more different teams we can get, and they're still halfway up Africa, so they might still be sitting on something like 80 to 120 ping or something stupid, depending on what the internet availability is like. I'm not an expert in Kenyan internet.
Well, okay,
that's a shame.
So put it this way. The guy told me they can get 60 to 70 ping down to South Africa.
That makes them viable, that
Absolutely.
makes them super competitive. And if there are some good teams sitting in Kenya or anywhere else, we've only seen Reunion Island. Where are all our Botswanian and Namibian players and stuff like that? Where's the random dude in Lesotho who's gonna just rock up one day at a LAN? I would love to see that story.
Or Rwanda or something, absolutely. And we've spoken about the storylines that have developed through the regionals and the splits, and there's so many more to come when we break through and get these other regions. All right, fine. So I want to talk about a couple of issues surrounding the regional, which was a bit of turmoil. I don't want to harp on it too long, but it's worth mentioning. Load shedding, a massive issue for this regional. We had Barney and his dinosaurs pretty much forfeiting their way out of the tournament because of load shedding. We had Synergy have issues, and Erratic. They had to forfeit the first regional because of load shedding. Then he had a generator that got flooded. The mist. You want to cry.
Got to feel for him. And you got to feel for a lot of people. I know, Greybeard, you missed out on a lot of the casting from this weekend. I also had a night which was just no power for 5 hours or something like that. And so it affects everyone in the scene. We've had to reschedule an RLCS tournament. That's ridiculous at the point. And so I think it impacts everyone. It impacts the growth. But at the same time, it just kind of makes the sunshine brighter when it eventually comes on, doesn't it? In the scene, it hasn't put a dampener on any of the players' spirits.
No.
Yeah.
No, listen, it's a pain. And listen, I had a nightmare. I was off for 70 hours from it was like 3 solid days. It was a nightmare. But it does, and I think your point, Alt, is very, very important, is that, you kind of feel that in every other region, it feels like that for the most part, all they have to do is show up. We have to do so much just to show up. And it does, and yet we are optimistic. And I think that in terms of character building, it's got to be great for us in the region, so that when we do succeed, man, can we bask in the sunlight?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be glorious when we kind of get through the wild cards and when we see these guys playing on a bigger stage. Because I think no one's gonna appreciate kind of the effort and what all of our players have had to go through. End up at a friend's house, go to a family member's house, get a generator going. Ask ATK Arena, can we use your space for the weekend, whatever the case might be. There's just so much more required of these teams and these players to even compete, let alone try place anywhere decent.
All right, then Sunday, Championship Sunday, we start the broadcast. About 15, 20 minutes into the broadcast, we get raided by APAC. Our viewership goes from like 150, 160 up to 17,000. It stabilizes at around 9,000 and it's climbing its way up to 9,800 viewers. And then we're raided by apparently Jack with 2,500 viewers. We're like losing our minds. We're so excited. Yeah. And then Twitch decides, oh, this must be bots, and bans the account. I mean, what a dagger through the heart. Alt.
Broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart at that stage. It was the biggest stage that any of us have ever been on. It's the biggest stage that any of our players have ever been on. That's like going, and when we came back on, and like massive shout out to Uni Rocketeers right now for being able to go, sure, use our channel. The fact that we could still bring even the action and we could still have those VODs recorded and stuff like that, amazing. But the fact that we went from like you said, 11,000 people to when we came back on, we averaged like 150. From the Sydney Opera House to some high school hall kind of thing. Like, that's the difference in level that this could have made for the exposure to everyone here. And when we get to the wild cards then, because we're guaranteed to get there, I would love to have had so many more people having fallen in love with the SA scene.
Okay, there's some news around that. Firstly, I tweeted out because I was quite frustrated. I was quite miffed about the whole thing, especially when on Monday morning Twitch responds and says, "Oh, sorry, it was our bad. We've unbanned your account." Oh, but thanks, thanks for ruining the best broadcast we've ever had.
Sorry if this caused an inconvenience was my favorite part.
Yeah.
If.
Yeah, and but what I understand from a couple of conversations is that we will be rated again. The APAC region, I think, are going to be sending their viewers to us. So I think we're going to have another opportunity. And I think people who know people have spoken to Twitch, and I think we're going to have a much better ride with that. So potentially very good things to come there, which is very exciting. And then we were speaking of the broadcast, and Alt, you quite correctly shouted out Uni Rocketeers, who were just magnificent, ensuring that we could have a broadcast. But Dream Team Productions, who are running the broadcast, they need massive props. They almost did that first regional as a favor to kind of help out, but they genuinely have so fallen in love with this and so badly want to make it work. And the hours and hours they've put into the overlays used on the broadcast, they coded and designed those from scratch. The assets, they've put in so much work, and they need massive props and a lot of love from us because they want to make it work. And I think because of their help, they're going to play a massive role in us getting somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think 100% right. Chris and Elliot, both behind the scenes, are just grinding so hard to make it work. And you can see Elliot like genuinely falling in love with all the players in the teams. He just understands what works. He knows how to build the brand. He's kind of this is SSA. It's just kind of growing every single weekend. And he always says kind of smallest region, biggest hype. And he understands we're all the way here, so far from everyone else, and still trying to make a way. So yeah, definitely big props to them. I mean, we've already, what are we on to our third production team here? We already had two prior
Yes.
to this, and now these guys are sticking around. So, we're kind of having guys that are giving us a shot and then they leave, and another guys that give us a shot and then they leave. Kind of, maybe it's a lack of belief in the scene, or else Noob Slice is not really feeling them either way. We kind of again, like you said, Ryan, we just have to graft so incredibly hard to try and make this work for us.
Well,
That's why it's so nice to have them grinding with us and for us. Like, no one will ever actually understand, because they don't sit in the green room, how long these guys
Yes.
work on these sort of projects, how
yes.
many hours they put in. The team that they assemble is fantastic. The fact that we got a couple of international casters coming to join us, and massive shout out to all of those guys who have put in this time and fallen in love with the scene. And then the fact that they came up with that stats corner was great.
That was
Joda and
outstanding.
Ash were such an important contribution towards it. And, it's starting to get us recognized by actual oral stats kind of thing.
Yes.
As casters, that ability to draw from this information that's being fed to you constantly, it's all coordinated and created by the Stream Team Productions. And I've worked with a lot of good production companies. Like, I've worked with some bad ones. I think everyone has. And you get to see the different levels and the different commitments and the different passions by the different characters involved in the scene. And man, I don't know if I've ever worked with someone who genuinely cares about the business ethics of their company so much more than what they're getting out of it. It's amazing.
And it's going to be a great show when we get the 15,000 viewers. They're going to have a show worth sticking around for. So again, massive shout out to Dream Team Productions, Tofu Elliott and the Sunderlad. And then two more things, and then we can wrap this up, chaps. Is I'm just checking my notes here. Oh, okay. So we spoke about the Pirates boot camp. Snowy mentioned it, and I hope Orlando Pirates are going to fork out some cash that when the time comes that Pirates XD can go over 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time to grind it out and get proper high-level scrims. I think that's going to be critical, and I'd like as many people as possible to get behind that and help make that happen, but especially the org would be... This is a good time for them to throw some money at it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, right? You want to get your players to kind of play overseas, no ping, see what it's like. They're going to be able to scrim in EU and at least even get threes that are in competitive EU. There's going to be, anywhere from 1,800 upwards skilled players. You want to be playing people that are much better than yourself for an extended period of time. I know, kind of a lot of European teams like to go scrim at boot camp at a specific place. I don't know if it's called the 1334 boot camp. But there's kind of, I'd imagine, between maybe Eastern Europe towards kind of Poland and the rest of those countries, you can get some decent places that also don't break the bank, because again, we are South African, very kind of hectic exchange rate to the euro. But yeah, I mean, we need to see that, right? We need to see also more than XD doing that. Maybe kind of, can Bravado send their players up? Can ATK send their players up? Could there be some kind of group special? Could we get a real kind of task team going up there to just make sure these guys leave with as much experience kind of as possible, right?
Well, you're thinking big there, Muzz, and that's good. But I think, yeah, if whichever two teams go to the wild card or boot camp would be fabulous. The last thing I want to mention is I think a shout out to Happy Meal and Snowy. I was so incredibly impressed with both of their interviews. Happy Meal in Regional 1, Snowy in Regional 2. The way they've represented themselves, their teams, and the game in general, I was massively impressed by it.
Yeah, no, this is something that's really taken me by surprise, or at least taken a lot of the international guys by surprise. I don't know what the international viewpoint or preconceived ideas of South Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa is. I don't know exactly what they're picturing when they think of esports in Africa, but they've come here and they've gone, these guys have such an understanding of where they're at, of what their skills are like on a global scale. They've got such an awareness of what they need to do to get better. And it made me feel really proud that our guys we have such a deep scene. We have the best and the best. We've got the guys who are performing super well in every one of their tournaments, are guys who understand and are so super passionate about the game. That sort of attitude that these guys bring, that makes them sit and think about Rocket League for so long during their days, or that it's such an impactful part of their lives, especially now with big money on the line and stuff like that. I think the fact that these are our representatives, these are our ambassadors that we want to send to the world, makes me so excited for what they can do on the global stage. And I can't, to touch on your previous point, I can't wait to see if these organizations are going to back these guys. You've thrown your title on them. You've probably taken a portion of their winnings. You know, some of the organizations do that. You've earned your reputation through the efforts of these players. Now is your time to kind of step up and send them to where it really is going to improve them and put South Africa on the stage.
All right, well, there you have it. Muzz, Ultrazim, thanks for coming and chatting as always. And that's going to be the wrap-up for 180 milliseconds too late for this week. And I think we'll come back again after the next qualifiers, but we'll see how we go. But there we go. Peace, and we are out.